The Ugly Duckling. In a village by the river, there lived a family of ducks. There was Mr. Duck, Mrs. Duck, and the duck eggs that were being laid. Mr. Duck was very happy when Mrs. Duck's eggs hatched one by one. Mr. Duck and Mrs. Duck loved the newly hatched little ducks very much. But unfortunately, the last duck egg to hatch was different from its siblings. "Why is the last one to hatch so different from me?" wondered Mr. Duck. "Maybe because it just hatched, it's different," replied Mrs. Duck. Mother Duck and Mr. Duck have golden yellow bodies and orange beaks. The last duckling has black feathers and a brown beak. His face was not as pretty as his siblings. Mr. Duck was very angry. He thought that the last duckling was the result of Mrs. Duck's relationship with another animal. Because of his anger, Mr. Duck left his family. All the little ducklings were sad and crying. Because of Mr. Duck's abandonment, Mrs. Duck became upset. As she walked through the forest, she left the ugly little duckling far behind. The little duckling's brothers and sisters continued to tease him. In fact, Mrs. Duck didn't want to recognize the ugly little duckling as her son. What a pity for the little ugly duckling. He couldn't swim. He was abandoned by Mrs. Duck and his brothers and sisters. His heart was very sad, and every day he cried alone by the river. Suddenly, two ducks came along who were just as ugly as he was. The two ugly ducks tried to comfort the little duck who was crying alone. Not long after that, the mother of the two ducks came. She was confused and looking for her two children who never came home. When she found her children with the ugly duckling, she approached the little duckling. "Why are you crying, little duckling?" the mother asked. "I was left here all alone. My mother left me alone because I was so ugly. I am not like my brother who is beautiful and can swim well," the little duck replied, crying bitterly. "Oh, sweet creature of God, calm down. There's no need to be sad and discouraged," said the mother. "But I have no one now," said the little duck. "I will take care of you. All creatures are created differently. Your mother and your brothers and sisters don't have what you have, and vice versa. You don't have what they have," replied the mother with love and tenderness. "You see your face in the river. You are like my children. You are not ducklings, but ducklings. Right now you don't look so good. But believe me, when you grow up, you will be a beautiful animal," explained the mother, who turned out to be a mother duck. Yes, the ugly duckling is a duckling. Finally, the little duckling was no longer sad because he had a new family who loved him. Moral: be a loving child to your fellow creatures. Then you will receive love from other creatures.